When you first start training for a memory competition, you might be overwhelmed because you have all these different events to train for. And so you might think, oh crap, where do I start? Do I have to have this system in place already? Or do I have to have all these things first before I start even practicing any of the events? And so it's really easy to kind of psych yourself out. You're like, you know what? I'm going to get to it, but let me first do this or do that. And so you never actually get to training because you want to make sure everything's in place before you start training all these different events. Well, I'm going to let you know some events you can start right away. And if I could do it over again, this is what I would probably do because yes, you do have to create different memory systems for some of the events. That's just a given. But you could do different events in the meantime that don't require any memory palaces or any memory systems. So the easiest is probably names and faces, okay? Because some people like to have a system, but for me, if you get really good at memorizing random words, then you're pretty much going to be solid at names, right? So these two kind of go hand in hand. But words require a memory palace, or at least the way I do it. I do 2 words per location. For names, I just stick the name on their face somewhere. Or maybe it can even be all their clothes or like earrings, glasses, whatever it may be. But you don't need any memory palaces or need any memory systems. Same thing for pictures and abstract images. You don't need any memory palace per se to do these 2 events. If you want to, you could, because you have 5 images in a row. Each row could have its own location in a palace. But the way I go is I just create the story on the spot and just kind of go from there. And I've done pretty well on that. Spoken numbers, you can't do that. You need your number system, and this is probably like the hardest one to practice out of all of them, I think, because once the information's gone, it's gone for good. Let's see, and I think that's it. You probably have names, pictures, abstract images, because everything else requires some sort of memory palace or memory system in order to kind of do that event. Well, I guess everything could be done without a memory palace, but for me, that's probably going to be the easiest and best way to kind of store all the information. So these are 3 different events you could be practicing. Even spoken numbers, you could practice in terms of not memorizing, but using your number system. So you at least need your number system to practice spoken numbers, even if you don't have a memory palace or even want to start memorizing spoken numbers. You can just practice, 5, 7, Lee, 8, 2, Hercules. Kind of just practice getting your images. So you don't have to memorize it, But for sure, these 3 are events you can start right away. And so when you're trying to figure out, oh, where do I start? Just pick one of these because you don't need anything prior to these different events to memorize them. You just start right away. Then you're actually doing something. And that's probably the biggest thing when training for competitions is doing something like say, oh, Monday I'm going to start my training regimen and, it's going to be great because I picked all these different events for this one day. Then next day going to have all these events. When you first started out, you might be like, that's so much to do. Just pick one of these 3 and boom, get to it. And so, yeah, it doesn't have to be an overwhelming experience when you first start training for memory competitions or even training for your next memory competition. It's better to do something, you're actually practicing than waiting to have all your different systems completed and having all your memory palaces like, okay, now we can start training, because you lose all that time you could have been training these events. And for me, I hate this event, so it's good for me because I can always practice names and get better at it while maybe I build more palaces for these different events or work on a 3-digit number system, whatever it may be. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.